Hey, how's this for a stat? 61% of customers read online reviews before making a purchase decision. Or is that 72%? Oh, hang on, I think it's 81%. Look, whatever it is, it's high. And if you're not listing your business on review sites, then you might just be leaving a whole lot of money on the table.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, so much more importantly, are a motivated business owner ready to crank out some great marketing. You might be walking the dog right now. You might be in the gym. You might be commuting to that beautiful workplace of yours that is your business, that you are ready to build into the empire it deserves to be. And that's pretty much what we do around here. Everything that's coming through your speakers, your earbuds, is laser focused on growing your business through some very smart marketing. And you know what? Marketing, in my experience, is the lifeblood of many a successful business. Don't underestimate the power of it. Make it a hobby. I'm going on. Hey, we are made possible by the very good folk at Net Registry who get your online marketing sorted. Go on, check them out. They've got some exclusive listener offers and packages over at netregistry.com.au/Timbo. And we're also made possible by someone else. Yeah, I know. Two wonderful brands. 99 Designs, the world's largest graphic design marketplace where you get a design you will love, guaranteed. Head over to 99designs.com/ yep, you guessed it, Timbo. Hey, big show today. We're going to get stuck right into it very shortly because I am heading away to Manila. I haven't packed my bag. I am leaving in less than 12 hours' time, and in between that time, I need to sleep, I need to have dinner, and I also need to watch Hawthorn, my football team, Aussie rules if you're listening overseas, win a final that they're about to play in. So, yeah, I know, I've got a bit to do. So it is a big show, though. I have a chat with Nicholas Lembo, who is the Australian manager for the online review site Yelp, and we get stuck into all the nitty-gritty details that you need to know about all sorts of review sites. I've got a motivational marketing quote from the late Steve Jobs that'll get you up and about, and that's it. Hey? We're going to cut to the chase. That's what we do around here sometimes. As per usual, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at the Small Business Big Marketing HQ. So let's get stuck right in.
Do you need a speaker for your next conference? Recommend Timbo to your event organiser. Or better still, book him. Tim Reid, that's reid.com.au.
I should have said why I'm going to Manila at the Philippines. I'm going on one of David Warren's, so he's a past guest. Go and have a listen to episode 255 if you want to find out who David Warren is. But basically, he's a guy who's opened up a business in the Philippines to help small business owners in Australia outsource a whole lot of tasks. And he is doing a tour, a 3-day tour that is going to take me and some other Small Business Big Marketing listeners behind the scenes of this outsourcing thing that we all hear about in the Philippines. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I will be reporting back on it. In fact, I hope to do an episode at the end of the 3 days that I'll put up after this episode. So pretty excited about that. Lots to report back on, I hope. However, right now, we need to talk about review sites because I think there's many businesses out there that may be leaving money on the table by not claiming pages on relevant review sites that people could be sending you some love on, basically. So I have a chat now to Nicholas Lembo. Nicholas is the manager of Yelp in Australia. Yelp's one of the biggest review sites in America. Now, we cover a lot of ground here, so stick with it. It's a pretty rational episode, this one, a bit like the one a couple of weeks ago with Rand Fishkin of Moz. You know, this is the lecture part of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. There is no business story to be told. There is just some wonderful marketing learnings to be had. We talk about what review sites are. Are they just appropriate for hospitality and tourism businesses like many of us think, or aren't they? We find out who uses them and how. How do you encourage reviews on review sites? How do you address negative reviews? How do you respond to reviews? Should you respond to reviews? We cover plenty of ground. So I would suggest getting a pen and paper at the ready. I started off by asking Nicholas, what is a review site?
Essentially, at its simplest, it's an opportunity and a platform for consumers to write reviews and talk about their experiences with local businesses, which is what Yelp is, or with restaurants like on Zomato, or with travel and accommodation businesses like on TripAdvisor.
Okay, so are there review sites for all sorts of categories?
Well, I think every day we're seeing a new business pop up that is claiming to be the Yelp for something or the TripAdvisor for something. So you do see new ones coming up all the time, like a review site for dog groomers or a review site for whatever you can think of. But at its core, we at Yelp at least think one of the points of difference for us is that on Yelp you can basically review any type of local business that has a physical presence.
So is there a bit of an 80-20 rule applying here, Nick, where there really is some like big daddy review sites of them all, and then there's a whole lot of rats and mice who are probably, I'm guessing, starting up in order to generate some advertising revenues. But if the 80-20 rule applies, who are the top 5 big daddy review sites?
Yeah, sure. I think that is probably a good point and is probably true, Tim, to a degree. I like to compare it to social media, right? So in social media, your big boys are Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and maybe then you see a new social network pop up every week for whatever category you can think of. In review sites, like I said before, you're probably, in Australia at least, looking at Yelp, which I can talk about, for all types of local businesses. You, of course, have TripAdvisor, which is the 800-pound gorilla in the room for any travel or tourism-related business. You have Zomato, which recently acquired Urban Spoon for restaurants. And then you have a number of other local, smaller competitors as well in specific verticals, but those are probably, the 3 largest in Australia.
So like, is something like the Yellow Pages or in fact Google, are they review sites? Because there's certainly opportunities to leave reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Google is another one that has, in the recent past, kind of moved into the review space. So now when you search for a local business on Google, you will see reviews in addition to a business's basic information up there, like their location, their hours, and things like that. Yellow Pages, interestingly, they are probably moving to incorporate some of those review type elements into their business model. I'm not particularly familiar with their details, but funnily enough...
Come on, mate, they're your competition, aren't they?
Well, that's actually where the Yelp name comes from to a degree, is a combination of kind of help and Yellow Pages. Yeah, so, that is, of course, the kind of classic business that, review sites are in some way disrupting, is those types of directories businesses.
Righto. So, Nick, why are review sites so important for the marketing of a business? That's an assumption, actually. I'm assuming they are.
Yeah.
You're going to be biased, but why are they? Why do we need to know about them?
I think, in Australia in particular, we're in such a relatively nascent space with review sites, which is really exciting to me. But the thing that's interesting for businesses is that all you need to really think about is that consumers are changing how they're finding local businesses, whether that be on social media, whether that be through Google, or whether that be through a review site. So what I always say to small business owners is you really need to be on those platforms, connecting with your customers where they're finding you. There are plenty of stats out there that kind of back up the growth besides the ones I just mentioned about our traffic. Some of the ones I look at are a company called Bright Local puts out a survey, I think every year. But one of the really kind of interesting takeaway points from the survey that they did last year was that 88% of consumers now trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations, which I think is staggering, So whereas if you looked on the internet and you read a review maybe 5 years ago, you might have just said, oh, that's just a person writing their opinion on the internet. Now, in 2015, we're all just people on the internet, right? So people are really trusting those reviews almost as much as their personal recommendations from friends and family.
Okay, which kind of makes sense because the term friend, if you look at the psychology of this, the definition of friend is pretty broad these days. Like if someone likes you on Facebook, all of a sudden you got a new friend. So we are looking to those people. I'm looking at review sites right now, and despite the fact that I don't know these people and wouldn't consider them friends even in the virtual sense, they are people and they are leaving reviews that are heartfelt. And so you kind of start to emotionally engage with them. I am blown away by some of the stuff people write in reviews. It's like, who are these people that are leaving reviews, Nick? Because is there a certain type? I've been reading them just leading up to chatting to you, and some write prose, some write just tomes. Two big words there, by the way, but I wanted to up you with the nascent word because I've not heard that before. And they really get stuck into it. So is there a particular type of person?
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. That is a real point of difference, we think, at least for Yelp, but other review sites you see it as well, is we really go to great lengths to cultivate those people who are really writing lots of content, like you said, right? We have a group of what we call super users, which are our elites, is what we call them, and they're basically writing so much content on the site on a daily basis, and they are really contributing a lot of really rich and relevant content about great local businesses. So what we do to cultivate those people is we have a community managers in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide to actively bring those people together online and offline to find local businesses and to make sure that they're feeling energized and excited about writing lots of content online. But
Can I understand that? How do you actually cultivate strangers to write reviews? And isn't that influencing it in some way?
Well, I don't think it's influencing it in some way. Basically, what these people who are the community managers are doing is they're going on, and on the Yelp site, just like on other sites, you can friend or follow people so that you see their reviews when you go to a local businesses. And they're putting together events so that these people who are engaging with each other online can actually meet each other face-to-face offline. Mm-hmm. But if you take a step back and look at some of the demographic information to get a kind of a wider picture of some of these people, we see a pretty interesting breakdown in that, these aren't just young people like they might be on other social media sites. We've got almost 60% of our users are 35 and over, and almost 80% have completed university. And the stat that's really most important, I think, for business owners at least, is that almost 40% have self-reported income of over $100,000 a year. So there are people that are spanning a pretty broad age range, and they've got a high level of disposable income.
What do you think it's a general question because it'll be different for different people, but what's the psychology of someone who goes to so much trouble to leave not one review? I mean, I'm flicking through some of these review sites and there are people who have left 90, 150, 200 reviews. I mean, that takes time.
Oh, yeah, it's a massive amount of time. I mean, interestingly, especially if you look in the US, some of the people who work for Yelp, started out as just using Yelp as users before and then have since gone on to join the company. If you talk to some of them wrote thousands and thousands of reviews as consumers before they joined the company. So, the psychology of it, like you said, is a really interesting aspect of it, especially with this group of super users like we call the elites that you've talked about who are writing hundreds of reviews. I mean, I talk to a lot of these people on a regular basis. And I think one of the main things is that it's a way to provide feedback to a business without necessarily having to do that with a staff member who maybe you haven't had a great experience with. It's also a really great creative outlet, I think. So if you've read that many reviews or you're seeing people who've got that many reviews, you'll have noticed, Tim, that some people, put a lot of effort into really making sure that their review is funny or it's useful or it's cool. And we actually have tabs on the site that if I'm a user and I'm looking at a random person's review, I can just click on it and go, hey, that was helpful. So they get upvoted and stuff like that. So there are those small incentives on the site to encourage that as well.
Yeah, right.
But I think equally it's just about helping people find good businesses to spend their hard-earned cash. It's a bit of a pay it forward type of thing, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that. I think probably, as you're talking, I'm thinking it's probably also, we love to express an opinion, and what better way of expressing an opinion than to leave a review? Do you find that there is a mix of, what's that, I don't know whether it's true or not, but, they say if someone has a bad experience, they tell 100 people, and if they have a good experience, they tell one or something like that. Is that the case with review sites, that most are full of whingers?
That's actually, I'm so glad you raised that, because it's a question we get all the time, right? Especially from business owners who are worried if they get started either claiming their page or responding to reviews, that they'll be dealing with lots of negative feedback or they'll be responding to bad reviews all the time. But at least on Yelp, our stats show that almost 80%, about 78, are 3 stars or higher out of 5. So overwhelmingly, and this is all publicly available information through our website as well. So it's it's nothing, no company secret or anything like that. Almost over 40% of the reviews are 5 stars out of 5. So overwhelmingly, people are coming to talk about positive experiences.
Yeah, right.
I think what's really interesting about that is because it mirrors, this is my opinion, how people use Yelp, the way they experience their interactions with daily businesses. So, for instance, where I go to get my coffee every morning, I know what that experience is going to be like, and I go there because I like it, right? So if I'm going online to write a review, it's been a great experience. Most of my experiences with businesses will be, neutral to positive, and occasionally you'll have a really poor one, but I think that's typically the outlier.
Yeah, right. So, so just to continue that line of thinking, are reviews either extremely positive by nature or extremely negative? Because there's the kind of encouragement to write a review, whereas if you have a neutral experience, why would you just want to go and, I've got to leave a review for those guys? I just had a completely neutral experience.
I think that's a good point. I mean, our breakdown shows, like I said, that about 40% are 5 stars, 25% are 4 stars, and then we see a small grouping at 3, 2, and 1 stars, about 11, 8, and 14% respectively. So I think people are encouraged to go on and share the news when they've had a great experience, like you said. Equally, if they've had a poor experience, they're going to say it. For why they might share, a neutral or middling experience, I think that's probably as well people who, like you said, want to share their opinion, want to give their voice to the conversation and engage in that dialogue online, especially if they're, already part of the Yelp community. And if they've written hundreds or thousands of reviews, they're going to go on and write a 3-star review as well. They're not going to leave it out just because it's a mediocre experience.
Support for this show comes from 99 Designs, where dozens of designers compete to deliver a fast, affordable design you'll love. Speaking of love, their big cheese, Patrick Llewellyn, recently compared 99 Designs to a dating site.
We really think of contests almost like the dating paradigm. You go to a nightclub, it's noisy, there's a lot of people to meet, you get to meet a lot of people, and if you're lucky, at the end of that process, you might meet someone, right? And then you go on and have dates. And so a contest is kind of like that paradigm. You put up your proposal, lots of designers submit their ideas, and then you start to whittle down to a few of the ones that really resonate with you. And then ultimately you pick one of them, and once you've picked that one designer, the chances of you going on to work with that designer to get other things designed is actually very high.
99 Designs, where love is in the air. For a free $99 upgrade on your first design, visit 99designs.com/Timbo.
Get on Timbo's mailing list over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
Support for this show comes from Net Registry. Recently, I was Skyping it up with Verity Ma, their Chief Marketing Officer, when the line deteriorated. She thought it may be because she had loads of browsers open. At which point I'm like, why so many browsers?
Well, because websites appear differently on different browsers. So if I run multiple, then I can get a sense of how our websites are tracking across different browsers and customers' websites.
Net Registry, where attention to detail rules. Visit netregistry.com.au/Timbo for a website that works on, well, all browsers. Okay, so let's get to the pointy end here, Nick. By the way, listeners, speaking to Nicholas Lembo, who works at the Australian HQ of Yelp. Now, Nicholas, we've got a whole lot of small business owners listening, from vets to plumbers to masseurs and everything in between. What do they need to do? Let's choose one. Let's say a real estate agent.
Yeah.
What does a real estate agent need to do to set themselves up in order to receive reviews on a review site like Yelp?
Right. So there's a couple of things that are, really basic, really easy to do, almost take no time, and are so valuable in terms of marketing a business. A real estate agent or a real estate professional is a great example. I just wrote some pieces for a real estate trade magazine a couple of weeks ago, so those are fresh in my mind specifically, which is great. But the first thing absolutely to do is, to claim your page. Now on Yelp, you can do that at biz.yelp.com.au. On all the other review sites, you can claim your page as well. And once you've done that, you're able to access a lot of the free tools that are available to business owners on the back end.
Okay, so hold that thought. You claim your page. What, is there a page sitting there for every real estate agent in Australia, is there?
So there might be a page up there that we've gotten from some of the data that we put up on the site. If it's not on there, you can add your business as well. It's a quick kind of two-step verification process to make sure you are in fact the owner or, associated with the business you're talking about. But once you've done that, you then get a bit of a dashboard that's showing you how many people are visiting your page. You also get kind of customer leads in some sense. So that's people who have clicked to your website from a review site or called your business from your page.
So you're effectively allowing people to create a mini... It's not a mini website, but by claiming a page on a review site, whether it be Yelp or Zomato or TripAdvisor, you can then go, well, that's my business, that's me, I've proved it. Now I can put in
right.
Photos, opening hours, descriptions.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. Photos are super important. You can on Yelp, you can upload as many as you want. You can put in a description of your business, so your specialties. If you're a real estate agent and you sell commercial, you'd get a 2-line box to say, I focus on commercial real estate for businesses in these areas. Or if you're a restaurant, you might say, we focus on Sri Lankan food. Don't know how many Sri Lankan restaurants there are out there, but you can do that. You can also talk about your history and things like that. And like you said, that really basic business information, Tim, the stuff like the hours you're open, your phone number, your website, the stuff that consumers are going to need when they're looking at your business to evaluate whether they want to make a purchase. The other thing that you mentioned that is really cool is that a lot of people are using their Yelp page or their TripAdvisor page or their Zomato page, almost, if not as the primary source of interaction with consumers like a website, a secondary one, because as you can imagine, there are lots of people who are coming to these types of sites who may not find your website on Google, depending on your SEO strategy or what your presence on Google is like. So there are plenty of businesses that are using their presence on these types of review sites almost as a primary way to market and reach their customers.
That's worth just touching on. I had Rand Fishkin from Moz on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking obviously about how a small business can rank well on Google. And I think is it the Penguin update that came through earlier this year, where basically part of that update to the algorithm was it favours local businesses, and it does that in part by giving additional weight to online directories?
I'm not exactly familiar with the what the algorithm.
Okay, so let me. That's cool. Let me just rephrase that, because you'd be familiar. Like, how Google friendly is a review site? Different way of asking same question.
Yeah, right. So I think the interesting thing is that, of course, the more content that you've put on your review site page yourself, whether that be photos or specialties or information, and additionally, reviews you generate on that page over time, clearly that's more content and more linkage that is going to help, theoretically, your business's Google ranking. So you do see a lot of businesses, especially if they've got a large amount of content, that if you Googled, Delmonico's in New York or something like that, for example, that would have a ton of content, their Yelp page is going to be almost as high as their website, depending on how they've optimized their website for SEO versus how much Yelp content they have. So again, like I said, I'm not familiar exactly with the update that you mentioned, but I think it is important to note that the reviews can definitely help with that aspect as well.
I'm seeing it more and more. Like, just when I do research, looking for something, I'm noticing on page 1 that there is a mix. There's more of a mix these days of online directories, review sites, and then for those business owners who have put in the hard work, they've also had their actual websites listed on page 1. So I think my take on it is that review sites and online directories are actually fairly Google responsive these days. So so we've got we've claimed our page, we've populated it with lots of good stuff. It's a secondary website. We've got photos, opening hours, descriptions. We've got probably some testimonials or whatever. Well, they're reviews, aren't they? Yeah. We've got links back to our website, to our social media activity. We're rocking, but we've got no reviews. What do we do?
Sure. What do you do? So there's a couple things you can do. We have something called a check-in offer. This might be unfamiliar to a business if they don't know other types of social platforms that have used check-ins, but basically it's a way
I thought you said a chicken offer. I thought, you free chickens.
A wing and a breast with your meal. So basically you check into a business on the page. You can get a deal if you're a consumer, and the business owner can set that up. So it's a bit hard to describe what it looks like, but basically if you visit a page, they've got a check-in offer. I check into the business as a user. I share that on my Facebook and Twitter as well, and then I get a coupon to claim whatever offer they've made. The reason that's important for growing your reviews is because whenever I check into a business on my iPhone, the next time I log in on the desktop, I'm going to get a big bright reminder at the top of the page that says, you just checked into this business, your next review awaits. So you get a prompt to contribute a review. The other things you can do that are a little bit more straightforward and really just kind of awesome common sense. I hate telling business owners how to suck eggs, but customer service is so important. We've done tons of studies on our site that say people who mention good customer service are 5 times more likely to write a 5-star review. So, that's really big for people, at least on Yelp, is great customer service. The other really obvious things are in your market, your physical and your digital marketing materials. Refer back to your presence on a review site through an icon the same way you would for your Facebook page or your Twitter profile or your LinkedIn profile, things like that. Anything to suggest and remind your customers that, hey, I'm on Yelp or TripAdvisor or whatever it is, as well as here's my Facebook page, here's my Twitter profile, things like that. Equally, you can do that on your email signatures or your business card, things like that. So anything to just basically remind customers of your presence on a review site.
I reckon the big one too is just ask. I don't know whether enough business owners ask. The big banks and telcos are good at this. When you ring the customer service line and you finally get through, and then at the end they say, "Would you mind hanging on?" and leaving a rating or your feedback. It's like, oh, really? Yeah, I would. I don't want to. But, clearly that strategy works to some extent. So just asking, The
thing that's a bit of a point of difference for us is that we actually suggest business owners don't solicit reviews. Now, this is a bit counterintuitive to a lot of people.
Totally.
But we do it totally. We do it for a couple reasons. So the first reason we do it is we know that when you start to either solicit or incentivize reviews, you can pretty quickly get into some tricky situations where customers are now starting to expect something for their reviews. So that can happen pretty quickly, and we know it's not a great position for a business owner. The other reason we suggest that business owners don't ask for reviews is because, like I talked about before, we are a community-driven site. So we know the most useful reviews for consumers are the ones that occur organically. And then the last point, which is really important to note, is we have something called an automated recommendation software that's running all the time in the background. And what's that's doing is it's an algorithm that's looking for fake reviews. It's looking for reviews from business owners about their own business or about a competitor. It's looking for things that maybe just aren't that helpful. So that software, in addition to checking for fakes or checking for reviews that just aren't that helpful or rants or raves and things like that, it's also trained to look at signals if a review is solicited. So if you're asking,
I've got
for
a tagline for that software because the acronym is quite interesting. It's the Automated Recommendation Software. So it's got a pretty interesting acronym. You're right. You're with me.
I see where you're going.
You go. So it's like, don't make an ass of yourself. There we go.
And that's the first time that's been said, but I think that the messaging is correct.
Yeah. We know why this is the number one marketing show in the country. Please, Nicholas, there's no more questions, really. Tell me, mate, okay, love it. Interesting. I like a bit of counterintuitive, argument, so I'll buy that one. Another thing, just to flip that whole idea of, like, getting reviews is, like, there's a whole lot of business owners listening, including me, and we love to get feedback, right? And that's what a review is, in a sense. It's feedback. I get a lot of reviews on iTunes and I can't respond to them because iTunes doesn't enable that. But I read every single one. The one that was left last week about me talking too much, I had to move on from. But hey, listen, I still read it and I go, you know what? Okay, I'll listen to that. But you know what I do? I then go and check because you can see what other reviews people have left.
Yep.
And invariably, the bloke who goes, you talk too much, he's gone and left, he's gone and bagged out everyone else.
He's got the same comment in every other podcast.
He's just got a big chip on his shoulder. So, and hello if you're listening, he probably isn't. But we do. We read them. And I think often customers, for whatever reason, don't necessarily want to give feedback there and then, but they would like to give feedback. So review sites are great for doing that. Hey, before I let you go, Nicholas, just one of the big bugbears, I guess, of people, of social media and small business owners is that what if we get negative feedback? What if they say bad things? I've got a pretty strong view on it. What's yours?
Couple things that I always like to say about, responding to feedback. The first is that choose the right tool for the job, right? So we've got, at least on Yelp, we've got public or private messaging. So a public comment goes right under a review. That's there for everyone to see. And a private message is exactly what it sounds like. So a private message is a great way to say thank you, or if you do have, like you said, Tim, a negative review and you want to respond to that, great way to get a bit more context. The public comment, if you're getting ready to respond to negative feedback, is super powerful, and there's a couple things that I always tell people to keep in mind when you're going to do it. The first is, I call this a number of different things. I call it the mum rule, but it's basically craft a response you can be proud of. I don't want to write anything on the internet that I wouldn't be happy for my mum to read.
Of course.
So that includes things like basic common sense, being polite when I respond to a review. So if I have a negative review and I respond, I make sure to stay calm. Whatever I do write, I make sure to write it in a diplomatic and polite way, and to thank that person for their feedback, even if I disagree with it. And this is an important point that I always get business owners nodding their head with when I say as well, is that if you do have a point of difference with a negative review, that's okay to call it out. Just do it in a polite and diplomatic way and say, thank you for your feedback. Disagree with your point about X because of these reasons, but thanks anyway. I hope to see you again soon. Or, if you're not a business that would see someone again soon, appreciate your business, things like that.
Yep.
If I'm looking at that as a consumer, I give the business owner the benefit of the doubt.
Correct.
And I think that's the most important thing, is that consumers don't just look at one negative review the same way a business owner, right?
To the business owner.
The business owner is going to focus in on that one.
The world's come to an end.
The world's come to an end. Invariably, they might have 100 other 5-star reviews. It's on that one-star review. But
it's like having beautiful skin and yet you've got one pimple on your nose. And that's
consumers looking at all that other stuff we talked about before. They're looking at the photos you've got up. They're looking at how you've talked about their business. And they're looking at how you respond to those negative reviews as well.
Yeah, totally. And beyond negative reviews, like, just respond. I mean, I so wish, it really frustrates me that I can't respond to the reviews on iTunes because
Absolutely true.
Just the review sites like Yelp and Zomato and TripAdvisor, they do allow you to respond and do either say thank you, either refute what the person's saying, have a discussion with them, put your facts, whatever it is. But just seeing business owners respond, again, says they care. They're human and they
value
care.
that feedback.
Totally.
Yeah, it's very important.
Hey, Nicholas, very, very informative, mate. Thank you for sharing. It is a topic, as I said at the top of our chat, that we haven't covered on the show. Is there any aspect of this marketing strategy that I have completely looked over, or are we all said and done?
I reckon we're set and done. And the one thing I could leave business owners with, like we just talked about, Timbo, is get started. It's easy. It's not scary. You can claim your page for free, and it's a great way to connect with consumers that are finding you on these types of review sites anyway.
Yeah, good advice there. And listeners, just get on iTunes and leave a review for the big fella, would you? Hey? Thanks, Nicholas. I really appreciate you sharing, mate.
Thanks heaps, Tim. It was a lot of fun. Good to talk to you.
There you go, team. That's review sites, if ever I heard it. I think it's a story that needed to be told. I think it's a marketing strategy that probably many of you haven't addressed. It's a pretty simple one. Like, I'd do it. I would allocate 2 hours and just do it. Or outsource it. Hey? When I'm back from the Philippines, I may have some solutions for you to outsource that kind of work too. Now, I want to share my top 3 learnings from that chat with Nicholas Lembo of Yelp. Thanks to the very good folk at Net Registry who get your online marketing sorted. Head over to netregistry.com.au/Timbo and they have got some red hot listener packages for your online marketing, and 99designs.com/Timbo who will give you a very free, very, very free $99 upgrade to your design brief. Now, learning number 1. Go ahead and claim your page on review sites relevant to your business. Just do it. They're there to be claimed. You own them. I'd do that. Learning number 2, in claiming your page, be sure to make it as interesting and helpful as possible with lots of good content. So sort of look at these pages on review sites that you're going to claim as second websites. So lots of photos, lots of good information that makes your business look as interesting as it should be. Learning number 3, thanks to the very good folk at Net Registry and 99 Designs, encourage reviews. I think that's a good strategy. And even better, respond to each and every review you get. I hope you found that interview, that fireside chat with Nicholas, interesting and helpful. If you did, go on, head over to the show notes. You know the drill. smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, episode 266. Oh, make myself laugh. The late Steve Jobs once said, "We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here?" Righto, almost at the end. I reckon that's enough for today. I think we have learnt enough to implement for another week into our marketing strategy. That said, plenty of marketing gold coming your way. As I said, I'm in Manila all of this coming week, and I'll be aiming to do a bit of an update at the end of this Rocking the Boat tour that David Warren will be running. And my sort of intention is to pull out the highlights, the insights, the learnings, so that we can all better understand and possibly use the Philippines as a wonderful place to build a virtual marketing team. Imagine that. No matter what your business size, you should and have and deserve help. So that will be coming up. I also have a chat in a very future coming. That's what I was going to say, but that doesn't make sense. Also be having a chat in a future episode with a fellow who is a pitching expert. You're going to love that. He's going to help you nail your pitch like it's never been nailed before. Hey, be sure to use Net Registry if you need a website or simply to get found on Google. Exclusive listener packages over at netregistry.com.au/Timbo. Grab your free $99 design upgrade over at 99designs.com/Timbo. And a lot of love goes out to these two guys. Daryl Delirious Misson for putting this show together in, I think, a beautiful, beautiful way. Thanks, Daz. And for the music bed, the big thanks, the big hugs go out to Lockie Dolly. Thanks, Lockie. If you need a speaker for an upcoming event, then I'm all yours. I spoke at an event this week at Coffs Harbour. Loved it. Had a ball. Cracked the odd gag or two. Shared the odd marketing learning or three. And if you'd like me to do that at your conference, head over to timreid.com.au. If you want to surround yourself with motivated business owners, then I'd love to see you in the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. Costs you $69 a month. Pretty good. I would say that's money well spent. And you can do that within like a minute by heading over to crankmymarketing.com.au. And I reckon that's it. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.